So you're planning your trip to London and you're kind of feeling overwhelmed because there's a lot to do and you just need someone to help you figure it out. I'm here to help you. I'm Emily and this is part 3 of my London guide series. I'll link parts 1 and 2 in the cards and in the description. Those are all about transportation, but this is the fun part where we actually get to plan what we're gonna do. So I put together a 7-day itinerary and I've broken it down by days of the week because there are some things I'm gonna mention and I'll let you know which ones they are that only happen on those specific days. But if you have a different schedule, you can just kind of, change it and adjust it to how you want it. Sirens. Gotta love living in London. So for our purposes, day 1 is Monday, and we are going to start the day at Westminster Abbey. Now, it's up to you whether you want to go in or not. It is £27 for adults and I think £12 for children, so it's a little bit pricey, but regardless, it's nice to look at from outside if you don't plan on going in, and it's a great place to start our journey for the day. Outside of Westminster Abbey is Parliament Square, and if you walk across Parliament Square, there's an amazing view of a phone booth and Big Ben, so you can take a great picture there. I will insert some that I've taken of my family when they were here, and I think it's the perfect photo op. So after we've snapped our pictures, it's time to start walking straight ahead across Westminster Bridge. I would recommend walking across that bridge on the right side so that you can be closest to Big Ben and you can get some more pictures as you're walking across. And then once you're across, you can actually walk down the stairs and take a good photo along the river if you want Big Ben in the background. And then we're gonna keep walking along the South Bank. So this is one of the best walks in London, I think. You can see so much. And the first thing we're gonna happen upon is the London Eye. Again, up to you if you want to do the Eye or not. It is £30 if you book ahead of time. It can be quite pricey and I wouldn't recommend it if it's like a gloomy, cloudy day because you might not see as much as you want to. But up to you. If you're in London and you want to do it, do it. And then as we keep walking eastbound along the South Bank, you'll stumble upon several sites. And the first thing we're going to stumble upon is Millennium Bridge. So this is a beautiful, like modern looking bridge. And across the river from you is going to be St. Paul's Cathedral. So this is a great photo op. If you want to walk across the bridge, you can go over to St. Paul's if you want to have the experience of going in there. But after you're done with that, walk back across the river because we have more things to see along the South Bank. So back on the South Bank, if you are interested in modern art, Tate Modern is great and I believe it's free to get in. So if you want to have a look around there, you can do that. If not, you can keep walking, and then the next thing that we're going to stumble upon is Shakespeare's Globe. Shakespeare's Globe is a replica theatre of the theatre that Shakespeare's plays were performed in London. And if you're a big Shakespeare fan, this would be really cool. I believe it's £17 to get in. I actually haven't been in there, so I can't say if I would recommend it or not, but you can definitely do some research because we will be passing it along the journey that I'm taking you on. And then it's going to be time to stop for lunch, and one of my favorite places to take people for food when they come to visit London is Borough Market. There are tons of food vendors. They have a lot of really different variety of foods, and then there's also some stands that you can buy some like jams and fruits and all that kind of stuff at. It's a fun place and great for photo ops if you want to do that, and you can just kind of have a little nosy around and see what sounds good to you. If you're not up for the market vibe, you could also go to a couple pubs. There's one nearby called The George, and then actually on the outskirts of Borough Market are some more sit-down restaurants as well, so you can have a look there as well. After you finish up lunch at Borough Market or somewhere nearby, you can walk across London Bridge over to the north side. And London Bridge is actually not the big beautiful bridge that everyone knows and loves. That is called Tower Bridge, but you can see that bridge really clearly from London Bridge, so I'd recommend walking across London Bridge, and then we also have a few stops to hit and then we'll head over towards Tower Bridge. So we are making our way over to the Tower of London and Tower Bridge, but there's a couple options that you can do in between if you want. One of them is called St. Dunstan's in the east, and it is a beautiful churchyard. It was originally a church, but it was destroyed in World War II, I believe, and it wasn't rebuilt, but some of the ruins are still there, and it's kind of like mossy and cool looking, and it's a fun place to kind of hang out for a little while. Nearby is also Leadenhall Market, and this is kind of an old school looking market. It's actually where they filmed Diagon Alley and Harry Potter. Sorry, I thought I was gonna forget the name of that. But it's just a really like pretty little covered market area. I have a confession to make. I have lived in London for like a year and a half and I still have not gotten into the Tower of London. It's on my list though, and I would recommend it to you. You can see the crown jewels there, and I think it's just like a really cool cultural place to visit. I will go, but I haven't yet. So for adults, it's £29.90, and then for children, it is £14.90. And then to end the day, I thought it'd be nice to get a nice view. So there are two options here, and both of them are free. One of them you have to book ahead. The first option, which is the one that you have to book ahead, is Sky Garden, and like I said, it's free. If you do want to eat dinner there is a restaurant in there, but that obviously is not free, and you do have to book that ahead separately than booking, you know, just to visit. If this trip is kind of last minute and you haven't booked ahead at Sky Garden, never fear, there's also a place called the Garden at 120 that is also a free rooftop, and you don't have to book ahead. You can just show up and go see it. And that is the end of day one. Okay, so day two. Do not let me lose you here, because this is something that you might not have heard of and you might not have been originally planning on doing, but I say it's a must do. So stay with me. We're going to Greenwich, which is in southeast London, and it's one of the most beautiful places in London, in my opinion. It feels very like historic and like kind of small villagey, but it's still within London, so it's an amazing place to go for the day. I went to school in Greenwich and I lived there for 9 months, and I just think it's amazing and you have to go. I know I'm biased, but every time people come and visit me, I take them there and they're like, yeah, that was amazing. I can see why you like it so much. And we're going to be taking a boat together. So you can take the Uber boat or the Thames Clipper, and I've mentioned this in my transportation video, but if you're staying kind of west of Tower Bridge area, I would definitely recommend it, because if you take the boat, you can go under Tower Bridge, you can see all the sights, it's going to be amazing. And Greenwich is in kind of further East London, so you'll get a good journey down the river. Now the first thing you'll see when you get off of the boat is the Cutty Sark, and this was a giant tea vessel, and it was the fastest of its time, and you can go and visit it, you can tour the museum, whatever you want to do there, that's just an option. And then also you can turn around and see a really pretty view of Canary Wharf. Next up we have Greenwich Market, and this is such a cute little market. There's food vendors, there's people set up with booths selling handmade goods, and it's just like a very wholesome feel. There's also some built-in shops into the market, so if you go on a day where there's less booths set up, there's still some shops to go into. Then we're going to make our way to the Royal Naval College, and this is arguably one of the most beautiful buildings in London. Historically, this was a hospital and a Royal Naval College, and now it's part of the University of Greenwich, which is where I went to school, and it's absolutely stunning. Take all your pictures here. Go in the little like corridors with the poles and the domes, and ugh, amazing. I love it there. So if you keep walking a little bit further down the river after the Royal Naval College, there's a pub called Trafalgar Tavern, and this is such a cute pub. There's also some seats outside if you're here during a warmer month. Next up we have the Queen's house. Now this is not Queen Elizabeth's house, this is a house that many queens throughout history have lived in. You can go in for free, but my favorite thing about the house is they have two little, I'm having a hard time describing these like corridors with the pillars, but basically they're really fun to walk through. You can see a view of the Royal Observatory, which we will talk about later, and then also a view of the Royal Naval College. Next to the Queen's house is the National Maritime Museum, and this is free to get into. If you are into ships and war history and that kind of stuff, I would definitely recommend it. It's, like I said, free, and there's also a little cafe in there, and there's bathrooms, which you can sneak into. Well, you don't have to sneak. They're just right by the cafe, so that's like 95% of the time why I go in there. And then, so here's the Queen's house, here's the Maritime Museum. On the other side of it is Greenwich Park, which is my top 5 favorite places on earth. You can spend hours roaming around in the park, but I'm going to point out a few key places. First of all, there is the Ranger's house, and this is the outside of the Bridgerton house in Bridgerton, if you are a fan of that show. There's also like a rose garden outside of it, which is really pretty, and if you are here during the months of like April, May, then there is a path with some cherry blossoms on it, which is really beautiful. Next is the Royal Observatory, and you can go see the view from the Royal Observatory for free, but if you want to go inside, they have a planetarium, a museum, and the actual line of the Pride Meridian is in there, so you can go there. Otherwise, you can just kind of walk up to it, and then you can see an amazing view of London. It's one of the best. Now this would be a great place to be at sunset time, and then you can walk down the hill and go to one of the many other pubs or restaurants in Greenwich, and then head back into central London. And I really hope that I've convinced you to go to Greenwich now. Now for day 3, which is Wednesday, and the first thing I'm going to mention is one of the things that only happens on this particular day, and this is the Royal London Walking Tour through London Walks. London Walks has tons of tours, so if you're interested in taking some guided tours around London, I would definitely recommend checking them out. If you follow me, you know I talk about them all the time. But I love them because they're only £15 for adults, and then you can also get a student discount if you're a student, and it's £10. They also have like a loyalty card that you can use to make it even cheaper. So the Royal London Walking Tour will help you see all of the cool like changing of the guard things at Buckingham Palace. It's one of my family's favorite things that we did when they came to visit London, and it was especially cool because you walk alongside of the band as they are walking up to the palace. I haven't done this since Charles became king, so things might have changed a little bit, but overall I would definitely recommend this tour, and it runs from 10:15 to 12:30. So the rest of the day's plans are pretty loose, but I have a few suggestions that I'm gonna let you kind of run with. First thing, you're probably gonna wanna grab lunch after the tour, and then there's two kind of options that you could take. The first is a shopping day, and then the second is a museum day. If you want to do a museum, some good options would be the National Gallery, the Victoria and Albert, the Tate Modern, the British Museum, and then if you want to do shopping, I think my two favorites are Liberty's and Fortnum & Mason. There's also Harrods and Selfridges. Those are two kind of bigger department stores. The best part of Harrods, if you ask me, is the food hall, and then they have like a little gift shop. The rest of it is just kind of, you know, general department store, and the same with Selfridges. Liberty's inside is a beautiful like experience, and then Fortnum & Mason, same thing. So if you have to pick two places to go, I'd recommend Fortnum & Mason's and Liberty's. And then for dinner on this day, I would recommend going to a place called Mercado Mayfair in Mayfair, obviously. It is an old church that's been converted to a food hall. Lots of foods to choose from there. There's also downstairs like a selection of bars that you can go to, and I just think it's a really beautiful place to be and to eat, and they have amazing food. So now moving on to day 4, and we are starting today in Little Venice. The architecture of this area is very quintessentially London, and it's beautiful and stunning. And then you might be wondering, why is it called Little Venice? Well, there's a canal that runs through it called the Regent's Canal, and there are little houseboats on it and some little cafes. There's actually a cafe called the Waterside Cafe that's on a houseboat, or on, I guess it's not a houseboat if no one lives there. I don't know, it's not a boat. Some other places to eat if you are in the area for breakfast are the Clifton Nursery Cafe, and then if you're getting a later start to your day, this place doesn't open till 11, but it's called the Prince Alfred Pub, and I've been there before and it's really good. Now from here you have two options. You can either take a boat or walk to Camden Market. So the boat is 45 minutes and it goes along the canal, and my recommendation would be to go through the company London Water Bus. It is £14.50 for adults and £11 for children, and like I said, it's 45 minutes. I believe it's narrated and they kind of point some things out along the way. The other option would be to walk, which will probably take about an hour, and part of the walk is through Regent's Park, so if you want to see Regent's Park, it's a good route to go. Once you get to Camden Market, this is a place that has tons of food venues. There's also some like vintage shops inside, and I would just take a few hours to wander around. There's so much to see there. Nearby to Camden Market is Primrose Hill, which is one of the most beautiful neighborhoods in London. I think I've said that about a lot of places, but this is like really a beautiful place. One of my favorite streets in the area is Chalcott Crescent. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but I'll put it on the screen. And it's the street that Paddington lived on in the movie Paddington, and it's just like a beautiful little like crescent with some colorful houses, and it's just so cute. There's also lots of cafes and restaurants around, and then you can also walk up to the Primrose Hill viewpoint, which has a really pretty view of London. If you still have a little bit of energy, you can also wander over to a place called Word on the Water, which is a canal boat that has been turned into a bookstore, and it's just the coziest place. From there you'll be close to King's Cross Station, so you can take a train or two back to wherever you need to be. There's also a place called Coldrops Yard, which is right by King's Cross Station, that has some restaurants and shops if you want to hang out a little bit more. For day 5, we're going to start at Trafalgar Square, and this is another great place for pictures. You can see the London Eye and Big Ben from here. You can also see there's like these lion statues and the National Gallery's behind it, and it's just like a really cute little place. And then it's also close to a bunch of different hotspots in London. If you didn't happen to go to a museum the other day and you still want to, the National Gallery is right here, so you can pop in there. And then I'd recommend heading over to Covent Garden. Covent Garden is so cute. They have a market, there's shops, there's restaurants, lots to do. There's usually like buskers in the center, and it's just overall good vibes there. From there, I'd recommend heading over to Seven Dials, which is another place that has lots of shops and restaurants, but one of the best places there is the Seven Dials Market. They have tons of food stalls. There's pizza, there's bao buns, there's so much to eat. So I'd recommend going there for lunch if you're in that area. And then you can pop over to Neal's Yard, which is a really picturesque little alleyway. And then this is a place I'd love to just have like a glass of wine at one of the tables outside and just kind of soak it all in. And while you're in this area, if you want to hang out and go to Piccadilly Circus or Chinatown, SoHo, all those areas are kind of really close together, so you can just kind of have a wander around. And then I would recommend for the evening going to a West End show. So that's the evening dinner and show. You can grab dinner. I would say probably Soho is the area that you'll be in if you're going to one of the theaters. So dinner in Soho and then going to one of the theaters. I always buy my tickets for the theater on TodayTix, so definitely have a look at that. And to me, that just sounds like a perfect night. I love dinner and show. It's probably one of my like top 3 things to do in London. Day 6, Saturday morning, we're headed to Portobello Road Market. This is in Notting Hill, and this market is open on other days, but they have the most vendors on Saturdays. It also is the most crowded, so I don't know, if you hate crowds, maybe Saturday wouldn't be the best day to go, but I think it's the best day because it's the most lively and vibrant, especially if you're coming in like the winter. If you are here during the summer, I would say maybe like Friday is a good day to go. But anyway, Portobello Road Market is one of the most famous markets in London. They have vintage goods, they have food stands, they got it all. It's really fun. Some places to be on the lookout for are Alice's Antiques. This was, I keep mentioning Paddington for some reason, but that was in Paddington. There's also the Electric Cinema, which I believe is the oldest cinema in London. I'm gonna fact check myself and put a correction on the screen if that's not right. Buns from Home is a really popular dessert place, and I can vouch that they're really good. The Notting Hill bookstore is there, however, it's not a travel bookstore as it is in the movie. It's just a souvenir shop now, but you know, great for photo op. Also, the Blue Door from Notting Hill is in Notting Hill, obviously. Truly just have a wander, and then you can make your way to Kensington Palace. Kensington Palace is the official royal residence of Will and Kate, and I also believe Princess Diana lived there. They have a Princess Diana memorial garden outside as well. That's free, but to get into the palace it is about £25. Some highlights of Kensington Garden: obviously there's Kensington Palace and the pond, and then there's the Albert Memorial on one side, and from there you can see the Royal Albert Hall, and then on the other side is the Italian Gardens, which is just like really pretty gardens with a pond. And then you can make your way into Hyde Park. Hyde Park and Kensington Gardens are basically one big park, but they're separated by a road, and one side is Kensington Gardens, one side is Hyde Park. And you can just kind of have like a wander. You can have a picnic in there. It's a great place to be. Another one of my favorite things to do in London is going to afternoon tea, and a good place that I know that is pretty affordable and is near Kensington Gardens is called Candela Tea Room. It's a very small tea room, so you do need to book ahead of time, but they have a good spread of foods, they have a nice selection of tea, and the scones there are really good. Otherwise, another good place for tea is called the Wolseley. It's a little bit more pricey, but it's still on the more affordable end, and it's in a nice location. If you didn't make your way to Harrods on your shopping day, you'll also be pretty near Harrods by the time you get to Hyde Park, so you could pop down into that area. It's called Knightsbridge, and it's just like a really posh neighborhood, and then there's Harrods and a bunch of different like high-end stores. And now for our last day, my recommendation would be to go up to Hampstead Heath, and this is, I keep saying everywhere's the most beautiful, I don't know. Hampstead Heath is a big green area, but it's surrounded by like a little village, which I think is so cute. When you get to Hampstead Heath, some good places to eat would be the Hollybush Pub, the Flask, the Spaniards Inn, or Euphorium Cafe, and that all just depends on which area you arrive into. My top recommendation there would be going to the Parliament Hill viewpoint. I really like this viewpoint because on one side you can see like the little village and some rolling hills, and it feels more like the countryside, and then you turn around and you can see like an amazing view of London, so it's a really good place to go. And then while you're up there, I would also recommend going to Highgate. And Highgate is more, it feels like a little village within London. It's really cute. And I know this is kind of like a weird recommendation, but I went on the Highgate Cemetery tour and it was actually so interesting and I really enjoyed myself, and I've been recommending it to everyone ever since. Some other nice places to go in Highgate are the Flask, which is different than the Flask in Hampstead Heath, so if you are in Highgate, make sure you do the Flask Highgate. Someone told me that Taylor Swift has been spotted there, so, and I can personally vouch for the deliciousness of their Hasselback potatoes. And then another great place to go would be the Grocery Post. It's like a little grocery store, but they also have like a tea and coffee cafe. No seats though, so that would be like a grab and go kind of place. But yeah, final day, Hampstead Heath and Highgate. You'll have a ball. Of course, there are so many more things that you could do in London, and I know it's kind of overwhelming. I live here and I still feel like there's too much to do and not enough time, but that's everything that I would personally do in 7 days if I had someone coming to visit and they wanted to see London for the first time. Like I said, this is part 3 of my London Guide series. The first was how to get from the airport into central London, both Heathrow and Gatwick. The second was how to get around in London, how to use public transportation and all that jazz. I think that is a really useful video if you are coming to visit London. And then the next part will be just general tips and do's and don'ts of visiting London. So I hope you'll stay tuned for that. If you like this video, make sure that you give it a thumbs up if it was helpful for you, and make sure to subscribe for more. See you next time. Bye!